All righty, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Stephanie McCraffick. Today we're doing Understanding Identity Theft, Prevention, and Recovery at another Mayo Employees Federal Credit Union Wellness Wednesday. I'm our Enterprise Risk Management Specialist here at the credit union. I'm a certified fraud examiner, and I've been in the financial industry for almost going on over 20 years now. And I've been an anti-fraud professional for over 10 years. I'm really passionate about empowering others with information and knowledge to help them protect themselves and their loved ones. So today we're going to go through identity theft as a growing threat, kind of understanding what identity theft is, comparing the different common types of identity fraud, some preventative measures, how to respond to identity theft, and then spreading education and awareness. So we'll just kind of go over high-level overview. So these are the 2024 numbers. I actually just got the 2025 ones updated this morning. So I'll go over these first, and then I'll add in kind of what 2025 says. So in 2024, we experienced a total compromises for 3,158 total compromises and breaches. The top compromises in 2024 were for Ticketmaster, Change Healthcare, which was one of the largest healthcare data breaches. It was like 60-some% of the population had information compromised, and there were 5 different companies involved. Demand Science, AT&T, and then MC2 Data. These were the major compromises in 2024, and we had a 211% increase for year over year, primarily due to those mega data breaches. Now for 2025, the number is still pretty high. We've got 3,322, but we actually year over year saw a 79% decrease, which is a really interesting trend, and mainly that's because with the mega data breaches that happened in 2024, numbers are now going to go down a little bit, and the attacks are more frequent and focused on targeted attacks versus the huge data breaches now. The top compromised companies were PowerSchool. So this is our kids' information, schools K through 12. AT&T is up there again for a data breach. Aflac, Prosper Funding, which is a peer-to-peer investment company, investment platforms. And then Conduit Business Services, which is back office operations. They handle like digital payments, transportation, government benefits for different organizations and businesses. So when we look at these numbers and compromises, what does it mean? It means more fraud, more victims, and more identity theft. So again, like I said, numbers just got updated. They're always pushed out kind of March, April timeframe. So last year we had 6.5 million reports of fraud, and the top 3 categories were credit bureau and information furnishers, identity theft, and imposter scams, with 2.6 million fraud reports and 38% of people having a loss. And the medium, or the total fraud losses, were $12.8 billion. So for 2025, we're looking at 6.2 million reports, so a little bit down in reporting. Identity theft, imposter scams, and debt collection. So still kind of the same type of industries are up there leading in the categories of information. There were 3 million reports of fraud. 37% of those reported a loss, and we have $15.9 billion total fraud losses reported. So still pretty high. So these compromises have a large impact on consumers. Identity theft losses have nearly tripled in the last 5 years, and they're steadily increasing over the past decade. So when we talk about understanding identity theft, traditional identity theft is when identity is stolen of an individual, or a person uses an individual's identity to commit a crime. This is private information, financial information. It belongs to somebody else, and they intend to assume that person's identity and act as that person. So you've got a fraudster who uses a real person's name, a real person's social, a real person's credit card accounts, things like that. This is stolen identity theft, right? These crimes impact both the victim, whose identity is being stolen, as well as the businesses and the organizations that are getting the falsified information and having the theft occur with them. Then we have synthetic identity fraud. So this is the creation of a completely different person utilizing either fully synthetic information, partially synthetic information, or manipulated profiles. So criminals are often using information from victimized children elderly, deceased, or immigrant populations for real variations of data, and then they take that victim's information and build completely different profiles and identities. So you have your fraudster with a fake name and ID data, a random social security number that was stolen, and creates a synthetic identity. And these identities are typically made with the intent to commit fraud. Fake IDs and passports, loan and bank accounts, insurance claims, criminal records, fraudulent transactions and withdrawals, fraudulent health claims. And with advancing technology, it's not hard to create these synthetic identities anymore and create fake people. There are websites out there with AI and other tools that they can get everything they need. With part of your social security number, like the last 4 digits, they can pull the rest. They need a person. There's now websites that will completely generate a person for them. They'll give them name, address. They even give you your astrological sign. They will build you a complete person. And then, now all you need is a picture to go with it. So we're going to play a little game here. I want you to help identify which one of these are fake and which one's real. So this is number 1, this one's number 2. So who thinks number 1 is the fake one? Who thinks number 2 is fake? Okay. Number 1's real.
Really?
Number 1 is the real one.
I thought it was fake because it's not a full-on frontal picture, it's from the side.
Because it's a side, you think it's fake? Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep, we'll talk about that. How about the next set? 1 or 2? Who thinks 1 is real? We'll go real. Who thinks 1 is real? Who thinks 2 is real?
I'm not sure what criteria to use to
Right?
look for.
Yep, not sure what to look at, what to look for. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, this is the real one. Okay. How about these ones? Number 1, number 2. Anybody want to guess? 1?
I don't know.
2? Okay. Number 2. 2 is the real one. Yep. The real one is outlined in green. Number 1. Number 2.
I'd say number 2.
2 is the real one or fake one?
Real.
Real. Okay. No? 1 is the real one?
Really?
Yep. Okay. So when we talk about these AI-generated images, so these ones are considered easy to spot now because the technology is getting more and more advanced. So some of the things that you can really look for in these are visual distortions. AI images often have some kind of visual distortion. So missing pieces of glasses, odd chunks of hair, missing mismatched jewelry, odd fingers. It's getting better, but these are some of the things you can kind of watch for. The backgrounds of the images may have distorted or weird architect, or like an example of one I saw recently was a stairwell that went down, but like the railings were off and they were not in like the right positioning. So when you first glance at it, it's fine, but when you really look at it, you could tell like it was not a real stairwell. It went to nowhere and you couldn't hang on to it. Look at the plants in the background. Are there any signs or billboards? Is the word on those signs and those billboards in the correct language? Is it in any language, or is it completely made up? And while these are not always true when you're looking at facial positioning of pictures, the AI ones tend to kind of have this like straight on, like eyes right in the center of the screen, kind of an unevasive smile, nothing too threatening. So when you're looking at kind of the side profiles, not always, again, this is always changing, but these are some of the things that you can look for when you're looking and kind of critiquing images that you're seeing online. All right, so when we talk about identity theft and identity fraud, some of the common types of identity fraud are, the one we're most common that we're probably used to seeing is financial. This is going to be when an individual uses someone's information to obtain services, goods, or information, make fraudulent purchases, open bank accounts, file false insurance claims, utility accounts, job applications, or tax returns. That's the financial identity fraud. Medical identity fraud is when somebody uses another person's information to procure medical services for themselves for free. Criminal identity fraud is when someone is going to identify themselves during an arrest or when they're trying to escape summons or prosecution as somebody else, or if there's a warrant out for their real name, they may use someone else's name, or during a conviction. And then child identity fraud is surprisingly the most common among people who know the child. They may use the child's information to gain access to employment, to get residence, to refinance loans or take out loans. And children's identities are often stolen the most and used to create synthetic identities because they go unmonitored, typically until late adolescence or early adulthood. So when we look at the different methods that identity thieves are using to collect information, find out information about us, and build profiles and identities, these are some of the tactics that they use. So they have phishing tactics, so these are going to be your emails, your phone calls, your text messages that are kind of seeking out to collect information from you. You've got computer takeovers or hacking. This is where you've kind of those Microsoft pop-ups that say you've got a breach or you've been hacked or there's a scam or a virus found on your computer, call this phone number. Those ones. Any type of having like someone telling you to download any type of remote access device to your computer so that they can help you. Unsecured internet connections, using public Wi-Fi to do important financial, personal, medical type transactions. Data breaches, malicious websites, public record searches. There's a lot of information that are out there in public records that we don't even know are out there. Family identity theft, someone else in your family using your information. Shoulder surfing, when somebody is sitting behind you at a coffee shop. Notice how none of our phones have those like protection screens on them like computers do. You could be entering a password at a coffee shop or social security number or credit card and somebody else could just watch you do it. Social media, those quizzes that pop up on your social media that look really fun, that they're enjoyable and you think they're just a little waste of time and enjoyable, those are collecting information about you to sell and share. Home or car break-ins, dumpster diving, lost or stolen smartphone or other digital devices, computers, stolen wallet, and then our card skimming and shimming machines, the machines that they put on places where we make purchases.
Speaking
Question
of
here.
skimmers, is
Yes.
a lot of the gas stations, I never put in a credit card in a gas station anymore, but is that a good case of card skimming?
So yeah, the question is about gas stations and card skimming. Gas stations are a popular target for those skimming devices because they go unmonitored and unchecked a lot of the times, but I've just as easily seen them at Walmart, Target, ATMs. They take about 3 seconds to put on.
Oh, really?
So they're,
I had an incident recently, and I've stayed at this hotel off and on for many years, like over 10 years. But it was a weird incident this past weekend where I used my credit card, and they said, okay, it didn't go through. And so I also have an account with Wells Fargo, and I have their credit card. And it went through on their end. So I was kind of concerned about that. I put a dispute for it, but I'm wondering if I should get rid of that credit card. Is it possible that that hotel has a skimmer?
So the question is talking about an incident that happened where they were at a hotel, used their card, the machine said it was declined, but it showed up on their bank statement anyway and on their account, which first of all, good job on checking your statement when that happened. So there are two things. It could be that there's a skimmer on that machine. Yes, that's a possibility. Most of the time, skimmers aren't gonna like notify you they're there like that. More commonly with that kind of situation, I see the scam of like they're trying to collect your card number. So it might decline once and then you put in a new card and it declines again. So it's trying to collect more cards. But it could just be also that that day their machine had an error. So it's hard to say in those situations. If you want to be cautious, just ask for a new card number from your financial. Yeah.
Are the tap cards better than a card skimmer?
The question is, are the tap cards better with the card skimmers? Yes, the tap cards are better because they have the chip and the code that have to go together for the tap, so they are more secure. Yep.
I have a nephew that's a retired cop and dealt with scams.
outside or sticking it in.
Yes, yep, the comment is the police officer in the industry also said the same thing, that the tapping is the most secure. Yes, it does have the more layers of security built into it. Yep.
But can't the scammer get it off the back?
There are always ways that the scammer can get information, so the best you can do is secure yourself the best you can and keep monitoring your accounts.
I used to spend all cash, and I'm trying to get mod now, and use my credit card, so is that good or bad?
Well, so we can talk about some of the preventative things as we go on here, but the question is like cash or a credit card. There's benefits and negatives to both, right? With cash, obviously they can't steal your card information if you have cash, but if you lose it, it's gone, and there's nothing to protect you. With a credit card, you have consumer protection rights when you do have fraud happen in something that's unauthorized. So there's pluses and minuses to both. All right, so when we talk about the information that's out there, personally identifiable information, or PII, is information that when used alone or in partnership with other data can identify an individual. And while many pieces of this information can be stolen or is already compromised through data breaches and things like that, there are some things that you should use extra caution with and monitor more closely. These are going to be including your social security number, your government identification, so driver's license, passports, credit card numbers, bank account numbers, and your login credentials and passwords. So when we talk about PII, we have non-sensitive information, which is going to be your name, your email, your home address, your phone number. Information that is sensitive by itself, your social security number, the last 4 of your social, driver's licenses, IDs, registration numbers, biometric data. And then sensitive information to consider and think about when it's combined with other information is going to be your date of birth, citizenship or immigration status, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, medical information, employment, criminal records, maiden name, and then again, account usernames and passwords. And then you have your non-PII, which is like your device ID, your IP address, and your cookies. So this is all information that as it works together, and the more information that can be obtained, it's easier for the criminals to use.
I was reading that we're supposed to deny all cookies.
You're reading that you're supposed to deny all cookies. Well, the trick with that is some websites, there are some cookies that you do need to have the website function. So I think it's more reading through when the pop-up gives you the choice about what the options are and make the best risk choice for you, what feels best. If you want to deny them all and deal with a little bit slower website or something that doesn't function correctly, that's going to be up to you. Otherwise, there are different levels that you can kind of opt in and opt out of. Yep.
A lot of websites, they don't have a pop-up regarding cookies at all.
A lot of websites do not. They're not required to right now. So,
Is there any legislation to try to require them to?
is there any legislation that tries to require it? Not that I know of right now.
No.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So the cookie pop-ups are actually better?
The cookie pop-ups are better. I wouldn't say they're better or worse. They're just kind of part of online web pages. They're part of the functionality and how websites function. So they're good, they're bad. They're kind of one of those things that are a necessary risk for online.
But you had mentioned Ticketmaster, and I have a thing going on right now. I'm a Minnesota Wild season ticket holder, at least a partial.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was ill. In fact, she just recently passed away. And also my dad put a credit freeze on her social security number because of what you were saying, somebody could steal it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not go to a game, and the tickets are tied with Ticketmaster.
Okay.
And so I put on there, this is the first time ever I tried to sell ticket. And then there was an immediate buyer, but it only gave me the choice to sell the tickets and not to get to keep the money on the account. But then there was a point where I had to fill out information, and I said, I'm not doing this. And it wants my social security number. And so now I keep on getting their emails because I was technically paid, but I'm not gonna get the money deposited into my account until I give them my social security number, and I'm not gonna do it.
Sure. The situation is about Ticketmaster and a ticket purchase, sale, transaction, and them requiring a social security number to be able to complete the transaction. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that here as we kind of go. I don't address that specifically, but what I would say is we kind of talk through like giving out your social security number here next, which we actually will talk to next, so we can just move into that. With some of our preventative measures. So some of the things to keep in mind here is looking at who needs your social security number. Okay, so when we talk about people who need your social security number, they're never gonna call, email, or ask for it. These places are gonna be your IRS, financial institutions, your employer, Medicare and Medicaid benefit holders, and tax returns. These people need your social security number, okay? People who want your social security number and they're gonna ask you for it are gonna be places like schools, doctors and dentists, sports clubs, children's camps, loyalty programs, and charities. So when we think these through, like Ticketmaster, for example, it's a business, it's conducting transactions, financial transactions, that it probably has some obligatory regulatory reporting requirements for those payments and that funds transfer, which is why they're asking for your social. So in some cases, there are going to be things that require your social security number to do business with you.
But I heard about Ticketmaster, and I'd rather not get the $200 and put myself at risk.
And that's a great point. You'd rather not get the $200 and put yourself at risk. And that is a personal risk choice. And that's exactly what all of this is about, is sometimes people are gonna ask you for information that you're not comfortable providing. And at that point, you have to choose what feels more risky to me. What am I willing to give up to be able to complete this transaction? Do I wanna give my social security number to be able to do what I'm asking? Or for me, is that too risky and I'm gonna make the choice that I'm just not gonna do business with you? Right? And so when we talk about those different things, like doctor's offices, for example, you're not required to give your doctor and your dental office your social security number, except for Medicare and Medicaid, right? But they also are not required then to provide you services. So it's a choice. So it's a back and forth relationship. So when we look at those things and protecting our information, some of the things you can look through before giving out your social security number is asking the following questions to these businesses. Why do you need it? Ask them. Go to Ticketmaster directly. Why do you need this information from me?
They said it goes directly to the IRS. I think what's happening is that some people make money on those tickets because they sell them for above the cost.
Absolutely. So there are IRS reporting requirements because people sell them for above. So people are making money. So there's a tax concern. So they're now required to report it. Yep, absolutely. And then ask, how will you protect it? Is there anything else you can use? Can I use a different identifier of some kind? And then could you just use the last four of my social security number? So trying to kind of limit the information provided, offer alternatives, and see if they're willing to work with you. Some of the alternatives you could provide are your driver's license number, passport, current and previous address, and if you have a student ID, if that's applicable. Now again, these companies, some of them aren't going to accept other forms, but it's up to you to make that personal risk choice and have that peace of mind and give you some alternatives to ask questions as you work to protect your social security number. All right, so our next preventative measure, we jumped into our preventative measures pretty fast here. So our next one is we're gonna talk about is monitoring and shredding. So when we talk about monitoring, specifically we're looking at our financial accounts, deposits, investment accounts, credit card statements, looking for transactions that you don't recognize. So some things to do is utilize alerts. Check what alerts your financial institution has available and set up alerts for transactions for, at minimum, every time someone logs into your account. That's a huge one. You should know every time someone logs into that account. And then transaction alerts. Now don't set these up if they're gonna get to a point where you're gonna ignore them. You don't want so many alerts that you're just gonna ignore them, but set up the minimum ones that are gonna give you enough information to keep tabs on things. And then checking your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your statements regularly. If you are still reviewing your accounts at month end when that paper statement comes, it is no longer enough. With the way fraud moves and how fast this stuff is moving now, really like daily, weekly at minimum is when you should be checking your accounts so that you can take quick action.
I've got a question regarding VPN. I think on the Mayo campus, there's VPN at Mayo. So is it safe? Like, I do online banking, and I've been using the Mayo computer because there's VPN. Is it safer to do that, or is it safer to use the VPN on my cell phone?
So the question is about VPN with their employer specifically, if it's safer. So what I would say is that that particular employer has high-level security, and I would feel confident myself checking my online banking with them. Okay, a VPN is like putting a little protective bubble around you and your information to keep you safe. So I would say in that case, it's probably fine. If you have one on your phone, that's great. You should absolutely have a VPN on your phone to help protect your information. But at work, with high-level security places like that, yeah, as long as it's not against your work policy to do that. So,
Can you set up a VPN on your cell phone?
can you set up a VPN on your cell phone? Yes, you can. Yep, there are several companies, and some of the, when we get into some of our other things here a little bit later, there are some companies that do offer that as part of.
Mayo has changed, we used to have Cyber Scout, and now they changed very recently, as in the past few weeks, to Norton.
Right.
Interesting, okay. Well, I did not know that. That is news to me.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Cyber Scout.
I mean, I know Cyber Scout, but I didn't know they changed to Norton.
Cyber Scout provided the monitoring and also would help you if you had a fraud happen.
Yep.
But the Norton now, with that, will also help monitor, but it also is included with the insurance for identity theft.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that piece here towards the end, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So we'll come back to that piece. We're going to put a pin in that one, talking about some of the companies that do identity theft. Okay. So when we talk next about monitoring, we're looking at statements. So when we look at our statements, we're talking, you know, bank, medical, financial investments, all of your statements. Know when your statement is print and cut date is. So what time of the month, what day of the month is it supposed to be cut and printed on? And when should it arrive? Is it going to take 2 weeks? Is it going to take 10 days? What is the time frame? And how is that statement going to arrive? Do you get your statements paper? Are they coming by mail, or are they coming electronically? And then set up statement alerts if they're offered. This is also another important one through all of your vendors, your e-bills, everything. Have an alert that comes to your inbox that says your statement's on its way, your statement is ready. So that way it's a reminder for you to make sure you're checking those statements carefully.
Excuse me.
Yes?
With some of the local businesses, you know, we've got a set of automatic payment. And I'll show you, I'll get an email and say your next payment is due, say $70 on April 15th. Okay. A lot of times they'll take it out on April 12th or April 13th, not the 15th. And then sometimes it's actually a couple days later than, you know, so it's never the same date each month.
Yeah, the question about that is like you'll get an alert about when a payment date is due, or you're having an automatic payment and the date is not exact. That all comes down to weekends and holidays. Because if your date is the 15th, but the 15th falls on a Sunday, it's going to come out Monday. Or if it's a holiday, it's going to come out the next business day. So that's why it does that. Yeah. Yep.
Good to know.
All right, so our next preventative measures with monitoring is we're talking about billing statements and bills. So a lot of the same things with our financial statements. How should you be seeing, like, how do you get your statement or bill? How does it arrive? Do you get it in your portal? Do you get it by mail? After you have care, check your bill and watch for that expected bill. When is it supposed to come? How long does it take to get to you? And then review all your medical bills carefully for abnormalities. Is what's being charged to you actually the services that you received? Does it make sense? Medical billing fraud is just as important as identity theft, and it can be something that can actually help you catch when someone else is using your insurance.
I actually got a text from Mayo on my telephone number for somebody else.
You got a text from Mayo on your phone number for somebody else.
Yes.
Okay?
So I had called, and this was from like northwest Wisconsin area, and I told him, I said, look, you have called me, my telephone number, but it's for a different person. I said, and then I also wanted them to check to make sure they weren't billing.
Mm-hmm.
I had called the billing department, and they said they didn't see anything under my name, but yes, so
Yeah, so when you get a notification like that with incorrect information, it's really important to follow up on those things. Like, that's a really good thing that you did, to make sure that you call and ask those questions. Is someone else being billed under me? Is someone else connected to my phone number that should be? It could have been an easy, like, flipping a number mistake, but if we don't report those things and inquire about them, it could end up being a bigger issue. Yep. All right, and then when we talk about shredding, we want to make sure that we're shredding documents. So here at the credit union, we do offer to all of our members a free shredding event every Columbus Day, I believe it is, around that time frame, annually in Rochester. But there are other places around town that can do shredding for a fee. But make sure that anything with personal identifiable information, so that information we covered before, is being shredded. Medical bills, financial bills, taxes. That information is so valuable for dumpster divers to make sure you're doing that shredding. And a lot of times something that gets overlooked is digital shredding. So what do you have stored on your digital devices? Your phone, your computer? What kind of documents do you have stored on there? If someone gained access to that today, what information do they have easy access to, and how are you protecting it inside of your computer? Do you need it still on your computer? So just some things to consider and think about as you're doing shredding.
How do you do digital shredding?
So digital shredding is really just cleaning up your folders, right? If you have tax returns out there for 15 years, you're not required to keep them out that long. Check with your advisor, tax person, right? But go in there, delete them off your computer, wipe it. If you have that kind of information in there, are you password protecting those documents? Are you encrypting those documents? So the things that are on your devices that have this private information, how are you protecting it while it is on your device? The other big one is making sure your phone is locked. Whoops, sorry. Do you have a passcode on your phone, or do you just leave your phone open for everybody who picks it up?
Is it enough just to delete the information?
To my knowledge, it should be just enough to delete it once it's gone from your trash can after, I think it's 30 days or 90 days, depending on your system. It should be gone. But that, I would have to double check with my cyber IT people on that one. So.
I was also told that your printers, people can hack into your printers if you printed something and get information.
Printer hacking has been a question. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. I haven't really dug into that one myself, but it's kind of the same thing. Anything that's electronic that you are sending and storing information into is an access point.
So I have my password and then I cut it off.
Turn it off and password it. Yeah, it's a great idea. Yep. So the next preventative measure we're going to talk about here is our credit report. So the big thing here is to know what's on your credit report. I'm not talking about your number. I don't care what your number is. That's not my game. Okay? I'm talking about what information is showing up on your credit report. So you can go to review your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. This is a government-backed supported credit reporting website. And you can check it for free weekly from each of the 3 bureaus. They changed that and updated it. It used to be just once a year for each of them, but because of how bad identity theft has gotten, you can now check it weekly. You are going to have to provide confidential information to prove that you're you to get in. So your name, your address, your social, their birthday. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions to make sure you're you. And then the next thing I would say is consider placing a credit freeze. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to do this later. But it's definitely one thing when you're talking about a preventative measure, is a great preventative measure.
I just did that, a freeze.
Just did a credit freeze.
But a few years ago, when I could check one of those places, my credit report, I did, it was on the computer. Well, then they started charging me $60 a month.
Yes.
And they're sneaky that way, and now I froze it just recently. And when I get an email from them, I don't even answer it.
Yeah. So we were talking about here, someone checked it at a different site, and then it was probably one of the major bureaus directly, and then months later they started getting charged. We're going to talk about how that happens and what to do to kind of watch for that.
What did you say about the fourth credit bureau? Can't remember the name of it right now.
The 4th credit bureau, I mean,
I froze on all 4, and I also froze, there's something else where your
I've only
reports.
heard of
I
3.
only thought-
I haven't heard of a 4th one. I know sometimes,
It's
Oh my gosh, I cannot think of the,
Can't think of the name of it either.
I know what you're talking about. I know people do go there and they like freeze their checks on there. That's more background checks, and it's more of a site for like financials and banks and collection agencies and stuff to report when bad things have happened. I will think of the name. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Another area where you freeze where they can't, like for your electric and all of that stuff, that they get information from.
Yeah.
You can freeze that information. And there's another one, I mean.
Yes.
I was an identity theft victim.
Yes, so you've done this, yes. Yep, totally. I will think of it hopefully by the end and I'll let you know. So we'll come back. So as we do this and we talk about this, so freeze your credit and then monitor your credit. There's self-monitoring where you can go in and monitor this on your own utilizing free reports. And then there is credit monitoring services. So these are commercial services that are going to charge you a fee to watch your credit reports and alert you to changes that happen on your account and your credit report.
Are they legitimate?
Are they legitimate?
Companies?
Yes, a lot of them are, and we're going to talk about what to look for. So, preventative measures, monitoring services. Okay, so credit monitoring services or free credit monitoring is different than identity theft protection and monitoring services. One tends to offer only credit monitoring, while the other is reviewing credit cards, bank accounts, chat room monitoring, dark web searches, virus protection. Some include recovery services, and some cover out-of-pocket expenses and losses. So some of the things to look at when you're taking into consideration if you're looking at credit monitoring or identity theft monitoring is, does it include credit cards and financial institutions? Is it going to monitor that stuff for you? Free doesn't always mean free. So there are a lot of times there are hidden fees or cancellation requirements that are built into these tiny fine print contracts that if you don't read them carefully, they sneak up on you. So understand exactly what you are paying for. The different agencies and the different services offer different things. So making sure that what you're selecting is what you want and what you think you're getting, and that you understand it carefully. Research the company. So review with your state attorney general's office and the BBB against other complaints about the company before you select one. These are great tools to say like, okay, this is an A-rated company, this one gets C ratings. Search them online with the name scam or complaints to kind of see what other consumers are saying about them and their experience working with them. And then how are they protecting your information? You are giving out your information to a company to help protect you. This is a risk choice, right? So when you're giving out that information, looking at how are they protecting you? What is their data breach record? How do they protect, like what kind of encryption levels do they have? How are they reporting when they have breaches and that type of incidences to you? Sometimes it's not about how many breaches a company has, but more how fast they react to those breaches and how fast they communicate to you so that you can take action. So the number one thing here to understand is that what is being offered to you and what are the terms before you sign up for it. So when we talk about those hidden fees that you ended up paying, those companies can get sneaky. And you have to really read that fine print closely because a lot of the times you'll get free credit monitoring services with breaches, data breaches, and so you sign up for it. Well, within those contracts that say that after so many months or after the year of free, they're going to start charging you. So some of the key features to look for with reliable identity theft protection are going to be, do they have coverage for stolen funds and expenses? I would suggest something at least up to $1 million. And then looking carefully, what does that coverage entail? Some of the companies cover scams, some don't. Some cover cryptocurrency, some don't. So just considering those things and again, understanding what is covered. Make sure you have coverage for all types of identity theft. Sometimes they're very specific and detailed as to what they will cover. Do you have unlimited recovery services? Is there support of someone to contact that you have the right people to talk to at the right time? Do they have change of address monitoring? If someone is stealing your identity and trying to use your identity, this can be one of the first indicators of identity theft. If you have an address change that happens and mail's not showing up when it should, one of the big things you can do for mail is signing up with USPS's like preview of mail. It's not perfect, like it's not 100% perfect, but it gives you a daily kind of total of like, here's what's coming. So you can see like, oh, okay, I have these 3 bills that should be in my mailbox today, and if one of them doesn't show up, then you can wait a few days, make sure it didn't get delayed, but then you know, okay, that bill went missing. Why did that bill go missing?
It's Innovis, or Innovis, however you say it.
Innovis? Okay, Innovis. That's not the one I was thinking of. I'll have to look it up. Innovis, huh? Check Systems is the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that one too.
Yes,
I-N-N-O-V-I-S.
Innovis. Okay. I'll have to look that one up. All right. Then we talk about, does it offer dark web monitoring? So the dark web is kind of the criminal's playground. This is where they buy, sell, trade all of our information. So do you have a service that's actually monitoring your information out there for you? Data breach notifications, are they giving you a heads up when your information's in a data breach? And then what do they offer for support and recovery customer service? A lot of businesses can't be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not the capacity for everyone. So with identity theft, this is something you really want around the clock service for. So looking at if that's something you want, not everybody cares, but I would recommend finding one that has 24/7 coverage for you. All right, make sure I got all my main points for you. Yes, okay. So when we look at the common mistakes when you're selecting identity theft protection, the first one is choosing something based only on price without reviewing the full benefits. This can be a big mistake because if there's services that you want or you expect when you sign up and you haven't read everything, it's just based on the price. When it comes to having something happen, you could be really disappointed. Overlooking hidden fees and limitations, not reading the fine print, and accounting for major life changes. So, things that we don't always think about is every time we adjust when we have a marriage, a divorce, a death, children, family, looking at how does your plan protect everyone that you love in your life? Do you need it to? And then reviewing those coverage changes as major life events happen as well. So a couple people have asked, where should I start? And this is where we're going to talk a little bit about LifeLock. So where should I start? So these are some of the companies that I would personally recommend. They get good consumer ratings. They have good trusted validation. Aura, Identity Force or Cyber Scout, Identity Guard, and Identity Shield. Now in the past, if you've heard me talk before, you will have heard me say that I do not like LifeLock. I would not recommend it. And I would say I have said that because of the CEO of LifeLock at one point for a long time was very you can't compromise me. And he put his social security out there and it was compromised I don't know, I think at the end game it was 19 to 30 times. It went up really high at the end. And to me that was if you can't protect your own CEO, it just didn't sit well with me. Well, in the past 3 years-ish, there's been quite a bit of changeover within LifeLock, and they've been purchased by Norton. And then they were subbed out to another company. So with that being said, there's been a lot of changes and good changes from what I've heard from people with LifeLock. I know somebody personally who has had to use them recently. Their experience has been okay, not the greatest, but not horrible so far. So what I would say is that, again, these are all personal risk choices. Now, I did not know, and I'm going to have to look into that Mayo apparently has now switched mid-year contractors.
Just within a few weeks from Cyber Scout, at actually the beginning of March.
Okay.
They switched from Cyber Scout to Norton.
Okay. So I'll have to get some, because I usually do recommend if you are an employee of Mayo to go with who Mayo recommends because they have vetted them out for you.
So they, as a Mayo employee, we get that for
Yep.
free. If we want the extra service, there's I think it's $8.95 a month.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to remove your data.
Okay. Well, again, I can't speak to that because if it just came out, I don't have that. I technically don't get that information unless I get it through people. So I'll have to look into that and kind of speak to that more going forward for people. But what I would say is that read the information carefully. If they're offering the extra step up, read what the insurance is and what it's offering versus the cost. But Mayo has obviously vetted these companies too. So if your employer has one, they've taken the time to vet it for you. They're helping reduce the cost for you and take some of that cost for you. So those are always a good first round look. So they've probably had some good changes, LifeLock, if Mayo's kind of backing behind them.
Said the identity insurance was up to $4 million.
That's great. That's new for them too, I think. I think it was million.
Scary, because they went from somebody like Cyber Scout to Monitor now to somebody who can give you insurance. It must be that bad.
Well, when we look at the data that I showed you at the beginning, it is that bad. I mean, especially when I say looking at these programs, if you really want to make sure that you're covered for yourself and you want peace of mind, the insurance piece is really important. And also to make sure it has that scam prevention or that scam piece component to it, and possibly crypto. Because those are the major things that we're seeing right now for people, is these random text messages and relationships being built, and then you're talking investments, or you get a phishing text that pretends that they're the credit union and you think you're talking to the credit union or the FBI. Like these scams are so deep in psychology that it doesn't matter how smart you are. Everybody of the highest intelligence levels, like cybersecurity specialists down to doctors to myself, like no one's immune. So I would highly recommend that if they're offering that kind of service and that is something that would give you peace of mind, to really consider it.
LifeLock was one 6 years ago. I got my identity stolen, signing up for LifeLock. And the person was from Timbuktu on the phone, got my social security number and used it. So
Yeah, the identity theft here happened while signing up for it. So that is the other thing to be, well, so the question is, how can it happen if you're trying to sign up for those kind of services? Well, the internet is not as safe as we all would like to think. When you go to sign up and sign on, like when you're Googling things, these scammers create fake pages that look exactly like the real ones. And then they pay to have them sponsored and bumped to the top. So when you click on the sponsored ad, you think you're at the right place and you're on a scam site.
that's what happened
Yeah,
with the LifeLock.
yeah.
And when I found out through all my 2 years of nightmare, the United States has the worst cybersecurity. They're better now than they used to be 6 years ago.
LifeLock, cybersecurity.
United States.
Got it.
Europe-
Oh, yes.
Europe's got a pretty decent.
Yes, when we talk about the overall arching security for us as a country versus other countries, you don't want to get me on my soapbox about that. Yes, we could be doing better.
I was writing senators,
Yes.
congressmen, CEOs at Microsoft, you name it, I was doing it all.
Yes, yep.
Just got nowhere. It's better now.
Yeah,
It's much better.
Overall security is in the U.S. is protecting of consumers is a hot button right now, and the more we can keep pushing that envelope and telling people to do more for us, the better. All right, let's keep going. We got quite a few slides left here. Preventative measures. So we talk about increasing online security. So we want to use strong passwords and change them often. Consider using a password manager. So we want something that is at least 16 characters long, unique. Never share or reuse your passwords. Try not to do the same password combination across all your platforms using the same words and the same numbers just in combination. That doesn't help you. And avoid common dictionary words. So I looked this up this morning because I hadn't had a chance to flip this, and the top most common password list, it didn't change, which is so disappointing for me because we talk about to strengthen passwords all the time, and these are the same. These are still the most common passwords. So let's do ourselves a favor and let's not make it easier for these fraudsters. Don't make your passwords like these. Like doing QWERTY, that's across your keyboard, the top line. That's not clever. It's too easy, okay? So change it up. So look for things, use upper and lowercase letters, numbers and spaces, special characters. Think of random things that mean something to you but aren't connected to create your password. Like if you're a fisherman and a grandpa and your favorite color is blue and you have a dog named Mike, you could do Blue Mike Big Grandpa, and then add some numbers and characters and stuff, right? So think about different things in your life that mean stuff to you that you can add together to kind of mix it up. Using a password manager, I would always encourage. If you don't love technology, my cyber people will hate me for saying this, but if you don't love technology, don't use technology that you don't love and aren't comfortable with. a notebook and a piece of paper locked up at home. Don't be walking around with it in your purse or on your person, right? But if you lock up your passwords at home on a piece of paper, that's fine. That is secure. That is safe. If you need it accessible, it needs to be in a password manager. Don't put it on your phone in a notepad that you can just open and look at. You need a password manager, okay? Question.
I recently attended a technology class at 125 Live.
Yes.
And the gentleman said, you can use password manager, but he said they're not immune from data breaches themselves.
They're not.
Many of those have suffered data breaches, so
They have.
then you place yourself at risk doing that, don't you?
Yeah, so here's what I would say. So they attended a conference recently, a tech conference that had said password managers are not immune from a data breaches. They're not, and that puts you at additional risk. It does. So here's what I would say about that. It's a risk choice. It's about ease of life and risk balance. Again, when you're picking a password manager, a lot of the same things apply that you're looking at when you're picking identity theft. You're going to look for companies that are communicating. They're going to tell you how they're protecting your information, how they're encrypting it, and then if they've had data breaches, because there's a lot of information, so they're going to be an attack target, how quickly are they telling you about it so that you can take action and change stuff? That's what's important. So, all right. Okay. Next preventative measure is increasing your online security. So when we look at password authentication, passkeys. Passkeys are amazing. They're the strongest form of protection that are currently out there. So this is going to be using your phone or another supported device to prove that you are who you say you are before you're able to sign into apps or bank accounts or things like that. All the security happens behind the scenes. It's like a communication in the background between the devices, but it can't be stolen like a password can. So they're an alternative to passwords. They're unique IDs that are specific to each device, account, app, and website. They're more resilient to phishing attempts. They can't just call you and get your password. And then they're private. So like each information is stored on your device only. It's not being stored over on the other site. It's not being stored with another company. It's just being stored with you. And they're pretty simple and intuitive to use. Has anybody here used a passkey yet? I bet you haven't, don't even know it. Microsoft, Apple, they're big ones. It's where you go to log into your email, and then you get a little pop-up on your phone that says, give me this number, and then you have to type in the number on the computer you're on. Yeah, see, you've used them, yeah. They're really easy, aren't they? Yeah. So these are gonna use an alternative to, you could use your fingerprint, you could use your Face ID, you can use a PIN or a password. Sometimes they'll ask you to match the code to the passwords.
Is that the same as the authenticator app?
It's similar to the authenticator. It's a little bit different because the authenticators don't necessarily connect the devices. The authenticator, you're going outward to like an authenticator app to grab a number to put in, whereas this one it has to be done on your device only. It's like attaching the digital footprint, so you can't go anywhere else to get the number. It can only be done with your device. So some of the things that another way to help preventative measures is increasing your online security. So recognizing phishing attempts. So if you weren't expecting it, don't open it. And verify it before you open it. If it creates a strong emotional reaction, if you get any kind of communication and you're like, ooh, or you're like, those are the two things that you should be like, whoop, pause, okay? Any type of emotional reaction that a communication creates is a time for pause. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Handle all emails, texts, calls as suspicious until they're proven legitimate. We're just at a point now in our world where everything's coming at us so fast that we need to validate before we trust, but it's our human nature to trust before we validate. So we need to try to work against our biology a little bit and kind of flip our instincts in that. And then if in doubt, if you ever do have something that happens, if you take an action, if you click a link, if you call someone, if anything pops up on your computer, contact a professional and professional IT support right away. So don't go to your neighbor down the street that's good with computers. Go to someone who is a professional, who has education in this, who's working in it day to day. And I say that because this stuff changes so fast that if you're not somebody who is in it every day, you're not always up on what's changing.
Can you recommend anybody in that regard?
can I recommend anyone in that regard? Well, here locally, I tell people Geek Squad or Bright Eyed Computers are the two kind of major ones we have here in town, in Rochester.
I got a scam. I was telling my neighbor about it. She says, I think you should go to the bank, or to the bank. So I went to the bank. You gotta go to Best Buy, to Geek Squad. You can't go to Off Snacks like I usually did, and they helped me. And so I went there. My feelings are they were sure to help. I waited about 7 days. I went 2 or 3 times in there to see if they were done. And then I got it back one evening, about 8 o'clock. And I took it home, and a couple days later, there wasn't something right on it. So I took it up to Office Max. He could see the scammer still on there. And I paid him $100 for the Geek Squad, and I'd never been there before. And I went back on Monday and told him what happened, and there was a fast-talking guy at the door that wasn't there before, and he knocked me out of it, and then I went to the tech place, and he talked me out of it. And previous to this, I called the 800 number to call the Best Buy or whatever. Oh, they talked me out of it. Here, Office Max helped me with that.
Excuse me. So that's good to know. Office Max might have people who are trained in that.
Not anymore, they don't.
Not anymore, they don't. Yeah, and like I said,
Anyway, I gave him $100.
yeah. Yeah, I would be writing a letter for sure on that. And it's hard because you only get what the best that you get, right? Like we can't speak to their training and their staff, but I know that's just who we have in town. So,
I thought somebody like that too. I think I thought I got a hold of Geek Squad, because during COVID, you know, we had that COVID money. I thought, well, I'm gonna get myself a computer. Since then, I just put it in the closet after this incident.
yeah.
But I got a computer, and the irony is I wanted it to be safe. So I thought I would get some like anti-malware, but the exact opposite happened. It maybe wasn't Geek Squad.
Did you look them up online?
I thought I called them, and my computer was stripped. So then I went to Bright Eye Computer,
Okay.
and they
Yeah.
took it all off. But then at that time, I had Cyber Scout, and I told them about the incident. So they said, okay, we're gonna put a fraud alert on your account.
Sure.
And this ended up saving me because they notified me, we see that somebody from the US administration is on your credit report.
Mm.
And I got a phone call saying, did you apply for a loan? And I say, I did not.
Yep.
And they said the fraud alert has worked, we will not do this loan. So then after that, then I put the credit freeze on.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes down to it, so it sounds like some not great Geek Squad experiences here in town, but again, another kind of pitch for the credit alerts and the identity theft. Really important avenues to make sure you have in place.
Does RPD still have their identity theft?
Rochester Police?
You used to be able to call in there and there was somebody there that would help you.
I actually have not heard that as a resource, so I don't know if they still have that. Yeah, I have not heard of that one. I'll have to look into that one to see if they still do that. That would be awesome if they did.
Great resource.
Yeah.
Came to our church and talked about it. The guy that does it, or was doing it.
Right, yeah.
But it's been a couple years.
The question was if the Rochester Police here local still have a resource. I don't know if they currently do. I haven't heard of it, so we'll have to look into that more. Yeah.
And I found out the fraud alerts are only good for a year, so you have to keep on reapplying for it every year.
Yeah, so, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, hopefully, if we make it to the end. There's a difference between the security freeze and the fraud alerts. They are different. So hopefully I'll push through here so we can talk about those here just next. Okay. So make sure you're using secure websites and networks. So when you're going online and you're looking for things, when you're checking and searching for websites, look for HTTPS, not HTTP. S stands for secure. This does not guarantee it's not fraudulent, but they do have to pay to get the S, so it's another like layer of security that kind of helps. Make sure you're on password protected Wi-Fi, and then make sure you have your software up to date, antivirus and malware updated regularly. So make sure your devices have these, and make sure that you're updating and checking them regularly. The big thing is, I don't know how many times I see phones that go unupdated. These are mini computers, so make sure your software updates are happening, because those are patches in loopholes and security things that the companies have found that they're pushing out to your device. So make sure you keep them up to date. All right, preventative measures, act now items. So these are my action items. So if you want to protect yourself and you've had a data breach, these are the things you can do right away to protect yourself. Freeze your credit, change your passwords on all of your impacted accounts, and any account where you've used the same password. Now hopefully we've talked about that, you're not doing that, but if you were, make sure if you know something's been compromised, anything that shares the password gets changed. Set up unique passwords on each account to protect all of your accounts from being compromised. Set up passkeys where they're available. Use multi-factor authentication. Whenever you can't create a passkey, I would encourage you to use your phone over your email, because emails are more easily compromised and hacked into than your phone number when you're getting the two-factor codes. Set up alerts to monitor, and then review your credit report and credit monitoring and your identity and theft insurance for what they're offering and what is out there. And then when you have that breach notification letter, review it closely for offerings and make sure you're reviewing those terms and conditions and what happens after what they're offering you is up. And then validate the organization. Again, check with the BBB, research the breach itself to make sure that they're with the breach, the name of the letter that you're getting matches. All right.
What do you do if you've been notified that your information is on the dark web? Everybody's, right?
Everybody's information is on the dark web. Like the kind of the false sense of security that your information's not out there, it's a false sense of security. Everybody's information is out there in some way, shape, or form. It's just whether or not it's being actively used and sold. And the dark web monitoring is more about saying like, okay, we can see this information's being passed along, and like that's what they're kind of monitoring for, is the movement of it. And so it's like, okay, we can see it's being used or sold in some capacity. So that's what they're alerting. Now, if you're alerted to stuff like that, some of those things you can take action on. Some you might have already taken action on to protect yourself. Like if you get an alert that they found your social security number, if you already have your credits frozen, that's an action that you've taken to protect yourself. Other things that might, the use of your social security number, like do you have extra passwords on your bank accounts, or instructions with your investment advisors that, they need to ask an extra password. Things like that, extra layers that you can add in.
I will say Mayo Credit Union is awesome when that happens to me. I can go there right now with my driver's license and I still have to give both my passwords.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, she had identity theft and was complimenting about some of the security measures in place. Yes.
Awesome.
So if you have identity theft, one of the things you should do right away, some of the immediate actions if you have it happening, is contact the company where you know fraud has occurred. Go directly to their website or the app, ask for their fraud department, and then you're going to ask them to close or freeze any of the accounts involved to prevent new charges or prevent the accounts to be opened without approval. You're specifically going to ask for somebody in the fraud department because they're going to be the most available and knowledgeable to be able to assist you in your situation. And then ask them about additional security measures that they have that you can add. So do they have an extra verbal password you can add? Do they have a callback option so that if you're requesting a withdrawal, that you get a call first before that withdrawal happens? What can they offer you to add an additional layer of security? And then sometimes you might have to contact these companies back again after you've done your FTC report, just due to the information provided and kind of the steps you need to take. But at least the first step is to kind of lock it down. And then change logins, passwords, and PINs for your account. The next thing you're going to want to do is place a fraud alert. Fraud alerts are free. Okay, so you have to contact one of the credit reporting companies, and it's going to limit new accounts and charges, or limit new accounts and changes to your report. And there is verification required. And you're going to get a confirmation letter in the mail. And this is where we talk about this is what's different. So a fraud report is only going to be available for 1 year. And then you have to go back and do it again if you want it out there. That's more of like a preventative thing. If you have an extended fraud situation, like you have active identity theft, and you have your FTC report, which we'll go through, then you can get it for 7 years. And if you are an active duty military, they have an alert just for you that you can place out there for 1 year. anything else I'm missing? No, okay. Now then you want to place a security freeze on your credit. This is different than the alert. Okay, the freeze is going to be a preventative or a reactive measure to identity theft. It's free and it remains on there until you remove it. You have to place these with each individual agency. So you have to do this 3 times. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And then businesses are not going to be able to pull credit, but you're in control. This is really nice because, you freeze it up. Let's say you do want to go do something. You decide you're going to go buy a new vehicle. All you have to do is go into each of the 3 bureaus, place a temporary lift for the time frame you're going to go do your car shopping, and then it'll automatically go back on when you're done. Again, you do need private information to do the security freeze. You're going to have to provide your full name, date of birth, social security number, current address, probably all the addresses where you've ever lived in the past 2 years. You might have to provide a copy of a government-issued ID and a copy of a utility or bill of statement. It just depends on each bureau kind of has their own security checks, and they've changed a little bit over the years, but just know they're gonna ask you for information. The safest way to get to this is going to annualcreditreport.com. Click on identity theft basics and then security freeze basics and just copy and paste the link in. It's just the safest way to get there without getting to a fraudulent copycat site.
Someone gave me the 3 phone numbers of them, so I felt more.
Someone gave you the 3 phone numbers. Yeah, and on our identity theft guides that we'll give out if you have identity theft, we have the phone numbers too for people who prefer to call instead of going online.
Freeze on.
Yeah, to put the freeze, yep.
But if you call, can you actually get through to a live
You can.
person? Oh,
Yeah, there was one time where I forgot my PIN to one of the 3 bureaus and I was out car shopping and I had to call and they verified me over the phone and were able to help me. It took a little bit of time because I forgot the PIN, but yeah, they do respond and they're responsive and yeah, yep.
They asked me a question, I've moved around my entire life, every 6 months practically. I could not remember all the addresses.
Oh, I know, the things they
Now
ask.
I have it in front of me, my credit report, so if they ask me, I can look on there and find it.
Yeah, yep. All right. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is review those credit reports. If you've had identity theft, you're gonna, like I said, go to annualcreditreport.com or here is a phone number if you prefer not online. You do not need to pay to get your credit report and you can check it, like I said, once a week for free. So you're gonna be looking for accounts or transactions that you do not recognize, phone numbers or addresses that are unfamiliar to you or have never been associated with you, and then inconsistencies in your private information. Is your social security reported on there with a flipped number? Do you have a maiden name that's reported on there that was never yours, or an alternate alias name? Things like that.
I've had something happen where, this place spelled my name wrong, and then of course that comes on the credit report. So I had to tell them, say, look, this is not me. And then I also go to the credit monitoring services, say, no, this is not the right alias.
Yeah, yep. So it's really important to make sure you're reviewing those regularly to catch those. Yeah. All right, we're gonna keep moving on here. I think are we past time already? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, we're gonna keep going, try to get through this so you can get all the content. Okay, so last thing for responding to identity theft. Nope, we've got one more after this. Is making sure you report it to the FTC. So you're gonna go online and complete the form at identitytheft.gov, or you can call. And you're gonna include as many details as possible about the situation. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna create a personalized identity theft recovery plan. Here's the big difference. So you can go online and you can create an account, or you can call, like I said, or go online and not create an account. But here's the big difference. So when you're online, it's gonna walk you through, if you create an account, it's gonna walk you through each step. It's gonna update your plan as you need it. It's gonna track your progress, and it's gonna pre-fill forms and letters for you, just by having a username and a password and creating an actual account. If you call or you don't make up an account online, you're gonna have to print everything yourself and save it right away. There's no help tracking or updating anything, so you gotta start all over as things update or change. And as those who've experienced identity theft can testify to, things change quickly and things do keep coming up. And then you're gonna get all your copies by paper mail. So it's important to make sure that you create the account online to save yourself time and a headache. And then you're gonna report it to local law enforcement. This is the big thing because a lot of times local law enforcement is just going to say, well, there's nothing I can do for you. That's fine. I still need a report because you need that report number to then go back to the identitytheft.gov and connect that report number to your identitytheft.gov report. And those two things together provide you with consumer protection laws against other organizations and businesses who your identity might be used at, and they might take a loss that they then can't come after you for those losses. So it's really important to make sure you do that. Why report? Again, you're going to get the personal recovery plan. It's going to help local law enforcement and other agencies detect and prevent additional fraud, which is going to then also protect ongoing harm from other people, hopefully. It's going to prove to businesses and collection agencies that you were a victim, and it's going to guarantee you those certain rights. If you have tax, medical, mortgage deed or title fraud, or child identity theft, these ones are all completely different, like beast in of their own. So this is where I would really encourage you to go to that identitytheft.com and put all the information in so you can get very particular detailed steps about what you need to do. All right, we're going to talk about kids really quick because this is a big hot topic. So Experian estimates that 24%, so 1 in every 4 children, will fall victim to identity theft before the age of 18. So when we talk about security freezes, I highly recommend them for children because their credentials are particularly vulnerable and they go unprotected for years. So when you talk with kids about securing your child's credit and extra precautions you can take, watch for red flags. So notices from the IRS or credit card companies that bear your child's name on it. If you have family-sensitive documents, make sure that they're secured at home in a fireproof safe, like their social security card, their birth certificates, things like that, or that they're in a safety deposit box. If you see something, don't delay. Take action right away. Ask those questions about, is the social security number required? There are some local sports groups that will require kids' social security numbers because they want to prove age because they get very competitive. I'm not doing that. I'm not giving you my kid's social security number for that. There are other things you can give them, so ask those questions. Freeze your child's credit. If they do not have a credit profile built, you're going to have to go through the steps to build one first, and each bureau is a little bit different. And make sure you have the talk, not that talk, but have a talk about your kids, about what is like routine, age-appropriate conversations for what it means to share their information online and in person, and what's best to keep safe and private. They live online. Their whole world is about sharing their life online, so make sure you start those conversations early. So again, how to place a freeze for a child that is under the age of 16. Start by checking if they have a credit report in their name. If not, request to have one created, and then request to have it frozen immediately upon creation. Each agency has their own process. You're going to have to collect documentation to prove your identity, authority, and your minor's identity. You're going to have to complete their forms and then send everything in. Each of the bureaus do theirs a little bit differently. Some make you mail it. I would recommend certified mail so that like you're tracking it with all those documents. And Experian lets you do it online. Typically, you're going to get a response within 10 to 15 days. We talk about sharing knowledge and reporting and resources. This is my list kind of really great organizations that can help with some information and resources. FTC is identitytheftreport.com. Frozen PII is a great free nonprofit organization that has a lot of information about identity theft. Annualcreditreport.com, idtheftcenter.org is the Identity Theft Resource Center. And then we talk about building general scam awareness. You've got your BBB, they have a scam lookup. You've got the FBI has a scam resource area. AARP, their Fraud Watch network is amazing and available to anyone and everyone. You do not have to be of a certain age to be an AARP Fraud Watch person, so use them. And then FTC has a bunch of great resources as well. And then we have our financial institution toolbox. So what can your financial institution do to support you? So we've got, make sure you're using the suspected alerts for your debit and credit cards. Understand how they work, how they're supposed to work. What does an alert look like? How is the response expected? So that way, if you get one of those phishing text messages that's impersonating your bank, you kind of understand what's normal. Transaction alerts, there's balance alerts, thresholds for different transactions. You can get check clearing, ACH or external transfers, general security alerts like logging into your online banking, and then credit card management, which allows you to turn your card on and off. Online banking access is a great way to be able to look at your accounts now in real time and keep tabs on them instead of waiting for month end. And again, the real-time review of your online statements versus paper statements. Look at what support is offered to you through your financial institution. Here at the credit union, we have phone, text, chat, and in person. So with your other financial institutions, make sure you're checking what do they offer you? How can you communicate to them when you need them? And we also have a financial wellness counselor here on staff. We actually have a few now. But this is a really great resource to help you with budgeting and financial goals. And I bring this one up a lot because, one, Soka is amazing. If you've never met with her, she's like a money wizard. She's amazing. But when it comes to scams and having fraud and identity theft happen, sometimes that has a huge financial impact on our lives, and it can completely change how things are and have been for us. And so it's a great resource to sit down and be like, okay, here's where we are. Here's what I need with life and kind of where I was going, and how can we get you either back there or on a path to like recovery that will work. And then finally, at Mayo here, Mayo Employees Federal Credit Union, we support all Mayo employees and their families. No matter who your primary financial institution is, our team is happy to support you in any way. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out with us with any of your suspicious identity fraud situations. Questions? I know we did such a great job throughout. No, that's great. Yes? Have I heard of check washing? Yes, I have. I have heard of check washing. So check washing is when essentially someone takes a check out of the mail and then they use chemicals to remove the information that's on the check, and then they put new information on it and use that check. Yes, mail theft is on the rise, and there are checks being stolen out of post office boxes and actually right directly from the post office and being washed and used. So,
Your friend of mine that sent her check for her medications, her Medicare, to Virginia. The check was washed. They know that it was done there. And the monies came, I mean, the money came out of it when they redid the check.
yep.
I mean, she was out thousands of dollars.
So the situation is her friend sent a check for medical bills,
Yeah.
correct? And then it was washed and the money came out of her account. Yeah, so that does happen, but her financial institution should be taking care of her because it's a altered check and they should be working with her on that. The big thing is, how quickly did she catch it? Because if she was not monitoring her accounts and did not notify her financial institution within a timely manner, that can have a big impact. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's why I stress how important it is to watch your statements. Because if your financial institution wants to, at least I can speak for us, we want to help you. We want to help protect you and get that money back for you and make you whole again. I can't speak for other financials. But we do need you to be our partner in that and monitor those accounts in a pretty timely manner so that we can take action quickly.
Along with that, her financial institution told her, well, you should be writing checks with a specific pen.
She told her to write checks with a special pen. Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah, I got 'em in my office now.
Yeah, it's a great tip to write your checks with a special pen, but they're not foolproof. They're not, no. All of those, they can wash them too. Nothing is foolproof, okay? It's a nice security measure, but it is not a requirement for the everyday consumer to use a check. Like, unless they have it in their terms and conditions that it's a requirement. Like, it's a nice thought. We would love that, but it's not, yeah. Yeah, it's a good suggestion, but it's not something that I feel like would hold you to the fact that the bank should help you or not.
The mail is getting to be a problem.
The mail is getting to be a problem. Yes, I would definitely agree with that. If you could not put checks in the mail, I would encourage you not to. I know that for a lot of people that's not the ideal, and we have a lot of people that still like to put checks in the mail, but if there are other ways to make those payments, those are definitely going to be more secure.
My income tax guy paid online, he did it for me
Yeah.
Sent mail.
Yep, taxes, a lot of the tax stuff is all moved online now.
I know it's not 100% foolproof, but it may be for better than actual locking mailbox.
Yes, yep, the locking
You know,
mailbox.
maybe they won't bother mine, they'll go to the next door neighbor who doesn't have a locking mailbox.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not foolproof, but it's again, it's a risk thing, right? If it makes you feel better, and there is extra things they're gonna have to go through to be able to unlock it then,
Right.
but it's an extra layer. Right.
The house, I suppose.
Sometimes electronically send money to my cousin in Canada. It's a program called Wise.
Yep, Wise, sending electronically. Yeah, the thing I would be careful with the electronic transfers with friends and family is just understand the services that you're using, because a lot of those payment-to-payment, person-to-person services don't have any consumer protections. They're not like your debit card, so if you're sending it to somebody who you don't know, or you accidentally send it to the wrong number or the wrong email, there's no guarantee you're gonna get it back. That money's gone. It's like giving cash to someone. It's just gone.
What about Venmo?
Venmo's the same thing. Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, Apple Pay. PayPal is the only one, there's a little caveat to it because PayPal has a spot that says like this is for the purchase of something. So if you're buying something from someone, you can use that, and that does add some protection for you. Not a ton,
I had an issue with PayPal.
but you can have issues if you turn that off or, yeah. So it's not any better really.
Because it was through McAfee, another service that's supposed to help monitor, and it must not have been the real McAfee. All of a sudden I saw this credit card fee for like $120.
Did it come through email?
It was through PayPal.
Oh,
And I didn't even put it on there, and it was weird because it was my Wells Fargo credit card,
okay.
and it was a card I don't even have anymore.
And it was on,
Because they thought it was a reoccurring thing, so
Sure.
even if it wasn't the current credit card number, they still accepted the charge.
sure. So did you have a McAfee service before?
I did pay for one at one time, so
Okay.
what I had to do is I had to go into PayPal and I had to cancel this fee from the McAfee and before I can cancel out of PayPal. And then I disputed the charge and then got a new credit card number.
Yeah, like I said, PayPal is definitely, it has a little bit more, but it's definitely not any better, I would say, than like Cash App or Venmo or Zelle or any of those. The one caveat with Zelle is at least Zelle has to be done through a financial institution. So there is a layer of like vetting, like you have to have opened a bank account to be able to use Zelle, whereas like anybody can sign up for a Cash App, anybody can sign up for a Venmo, you just need an email and you can sign up. So that is the caveat. If I were to choose one, I would pick Zelle because it's, supported by your bank and you at least have your bank to kind of help you navigate it. But once the money is gone, it's still gone if you sent it.
Right, they don't have that in Canada, so that's the reason why I used Wise.
Yeah.
That one I could send.
International.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. There's a question?
Yeah, we got a question online.
Yeah.
Are there different protections for using like a debit card versus a credit card?
Debit card versus credit card. We get that question a lot. So the debit card versus credit card question is really, there are not different protections. They are both protected under the same regulations. So if you have unauthorized transactions on your debit or credit card, then you are backed by Visa or MasterCard and your financial institution for those unauthorized charges. What I would say is I tend to encourage people to use your credit card because your debit card is directly linked to your bank account. That's your money that's in your account. Your payroll, a lot of time your major bills are coming out of there. So I would encourage your credit card because that's your borrowed money, you're paying it off every month. And so if something happens, it's a little bit easier to deal with that and flip it and file your fraud report versus your whole bank account. So it's, again, personal preference, but if I were to pick one, I would encourage credit card first and then debit card for the major stuff.
But a lot of places are adding that 3% fee onto your.
Credit card, yes. And again, something to take into consideration is a lot of businesses are now passing on like the Visa surcharges for credit cards. Yep. So they're both protected. It's just how you want to choose to use it. Yep.
Stephanie, how do you keep up with all this?
How do I keep up with all of this? Well, I will tell you that I am constantly myself doing training like this and educations and webinars. Like I said, I'm a certified fraud examiner, so that certification itself requires me to do a certain amount of credits and education time per year. But I was just in a webinar myself this morning for 2 hours, like learning about AI.
Keep up to date.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is AI, identity theft with that.
AI and identity theft with it's going to be a whole other gameplay there, but yeah.
Well, I hope you show us some information.
You hope I can show you. I've got some stuff. I've got some stuff kind of in my brain in the works for the next one. Don't want to scare anybody yet, but see what we can do. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, my pleasure. Yes. Thanks for hanging with me. I'm sorry we went over so much.